Hello, y'all. This is Coach Lindsay from the Jackass Podcast. If you like my podcast, please like, share, follow, comment. If you think I'm just a big goofball you don't agree with, please comment. I would love to have a discussion based on whatever your thought is. Like I did last week on episode 31 with someone's comment on the previous episode. But today we're going to talk about clarity, and I think it's going to be my theme for this show in a lot of ways. We'll talk, and and you'll see how I mean. Because we're going to talk about Iran, um, talk about kind of local Texas primaries, um, talk about education like we always do, and then we're going to talk sports. We're going to talk WWE, and we're just going to have hopefully a fun conversation. This is my spring break week, so I may put out some more content this week. Um, See how I'm feeling. It's also my birthday week. I will be 44 this year. So, y'all, if you want, wish me happy birthday, whatever. Yeah, again, this is the Jackass Podcast. It's episode number 32. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but we're going to really start with the word clarity, which is kind of something that as I was really just thinking before I started the podcast about. Um, and most of it because there are certain places that we don't have a lot of clarity. And one of them happens to be education. And one of them happens to be government in a lot of ways. Um, I think at some point in time we did. And let's start with government first. We're going to start because it'll bleed down into education. There was a point in time in our history, and I don't know where in my lifetime, and I don't think it was an all of a sudden shift. I don't think it was a snap of a finger. I think it was little steps towards this. And I think it was so people who wanted to hide in the open could get away with what they're doing. And because there's a lot of words thrown around, and clarity has been one. And I will say this: there's a gentleman on TikTok who talked about it in about education. Um, Let me see if I can find what his name is off the top of my head. He's one that I get a lot of videos on, and he basically said that for education we need clarity in what the ending is, and I think he's right. But I think we need to discuss that word. Because clarity is basically means we have a clear vision, and it's a sharpness to that vision in what we want and what we have already. And I think our our federal level government has gotten away from a full clarity perspective in a lot of ways. Um, they hide behind, I guess, the fog of what they do. Um, and it's been a slow thing that has kind of gotten fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier. And the more we point, oh well, there's a clear definition between the parties, but there's not. There's a clear definition between the extremes of the parties, But for everyone else in between, there's not a clear definition of what they are. And in that, I mean, I'm I'm liberal in education in kind of women's rights because I was raised by a whole bunch of strong women, and I'm trying to raise two to be stronger, but also to have some values that they don't have to that they're clear on, and in some ways, the government doesn't actually provide clarity in what it rules and what it says and what it does, and then how they want you to um and how they want you to act. They've made the laws very gray. They made the laws not have a full defined definition, and that the only clarity can be in the very minute details of it. And in some of that, we have national clarity on some laws, but there's an automatic kind of gray because the states have the rights to adopt the laws, and how they adopt the laws, and they change the laws to fit fit their state in a lot of ways. OSHA regulations are one of those things um, that govern the workplace, but the state by state can adjust those laws and make them more clear for their particular state. I think on a national level, we get pitched on very vague ideas and very big, grandiose ideas, but there's not really any clarity. And when we ask for clarity, or when the press asks for clarity, we're given long winded, less direct answers. And we've learned to take those instead of let's question for clarity. And I'm someone who, in education, when I ask a question, I'm looking for a specific, detailed answer that would provide clarity to the question I'm asking. And it annoys me greatly, whether it's a student or an adult, whether it's an actual peer or a superior, not to give me that direct answer, not to give me that clarifying answer that I'm looking for at times. And in our government, we have let them get away with this probably for at least as long as I've lived on this earth, if not a little bit longer. Because I don't think this was like I said, I don't think this was a sudden change. I think it just became more and more vague, and we started to accept it more and more. And every inch that we accepted, they'd go another one, and then we accept that. They'd go another one, and we'd accept that. And at every point of that, I think that now we're lost in a lot of areas of this country, and that we don't have a lot of clarity of what we're doing. I think I think the people who are against Trump are so against the person that they don't see that he's actually kind of what we needed at this time. He's very clear on his stances, and I think that's why I gravitated towards him a whole lot more than Biden and a whole hell of a lot more than Kamala Harris. I think that more he was more clear in his second term, coming into his second term, than he was in his first. And I think he's shown that. I think if you look at his actions in Venezuela and Iran, there's a clear target, but it is not those two particular targets. When you start looking at it and getting into the minutiae of the details, it's a chess move. It's not a checkers move. It's a preemptive move to have leverage, which is what a businessman looks for in a lot of ways, to have leverage over China. Oh, look, if you act stupid, we can cut off some of your oil. Okay, that makes sense. Um, I think that we need clarity more in all the other stuff of government. I think Congress needs to be clear on how they made their money. But I think that we've let them hide it for so long that it would take probably 5 generations to get them to be more clear on it. I think because we've let it be systematically, oh, okay, we're not going to care because you give us what we want every great once in a while. And that we're going to really have to fight and get them to, and by fight, I mean get them out of office, get them out of this, get them out of that. Um, and get them to be what they need to be. So that's one of the things that needs more clarity. I understand Iran and I understand Venezuela, like taking out their regimes so you can get what was supposed to be there, and understand the outrage over people getting killed and stuff like that, U.S. troops. I understand all that outrage. It sucks. But I think you have to understand that to some people, that is worth it. Some people, that is worth that's worth the deal. Um, and it's an unfortunate thought process, but it is one that has been around for a lot longer than the U.S. and is unfortunately very accepted in those areas of, well, this is what we need, this is what we want, versus what we'll lose. And and I get it's cold hearted, but that's the breaks, unfortunately. Um, Now, for clarity in education, I think we need very clear goals um, for what we want from our students. But here's the thing, I think if you're going to do that, you need to attack everything except the people who are except just the teachers and the admin and the school districts and public education. Because if we're going to have a clear standing, clarity also has to mean that there's um, equal liability for all. And in the current system, there is um, in the current system, especially in the state of Texas, private schools don't have to do the STAR test. Public schools do. And now, instead of getting rid of STAR, they've gone to doing more of a map test. So the state, and here's the funny thing. This is based on an alternate funding type for teachers in the state of Texas. It's called TIA. And so here's the funny thing. Not every job or every teaching field gets this opportunity. Core subjects do, and reading, ELA, and math, math do for sure. But like my job doesn't. I'm a behavior teacher. As a PE teacher, I won't be able to get this. I won't be TS qualified. I'll have to go get some national board qualification and all this. And but I don't get that extra allotment, so I won't get that extra payday where I might get somewhere between 2 and 30 grand depending on what my job is and what I'm doing and all of this. But we don't have a true clarity of what the goal is. Or where the goal's actually coming from. Um, we change all this stuff, and it's like we don't know what's going to happen where, and we kind of don't know what the end result that you want it to be is until after we've done the thing. And right now, I'll use current star scoring. Okay, we're in spring break right now. So it's early March in Texas. About 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks after we get back from spring break, we will start doing star testing. Okay? Now, I'm in a middle school. So that means for every grade level, there's 2 days that are just testing. That's every grade level, period. Doesn't matter. Reading tests and math tests. Then there are 2 more days for 8th grade for science and social studies. And they can take all day on the test. Okay, fine. Then, between when that test gets done and the end of the school year, we're going to do 2 more days of map testing. Because to get TIA, you have to have 2 forms of testing to show growth. One being the STAR, and the other one being the district bought the map test. But that's going to take a half day, so that's going to take another whole day. So there's 5 days of the 45 days left of school where kids are going to be tested. That is the only thing clear in Texas public education, is that the kids are going to be tested. What exactly the test is going to go over is guesswork by certain organizations, and they can tell you, well, this is the type of question that happened last year. This is its average percentage on a test. Like, you have the data, you can find the data. So these are the skills that you guys need to make sure that they know. But they still may not be tested on it. Because there's no clear, because here's the other thing. Because say when we're in a class and I give your son or daughter a test over the unit that we just went over, I have a clear, defined test where that I know these questions are going to answer, these questions are going to be asked to answer this type of subject or this TEAC or whatnot. But I don't necessarily get that when you talk to the state. And when we talk about map testing in school, because it's measuring growth of the student based on his previous test to see if that student learned anything else between here and there and to see how much it's grown or not grown since then. Because the map test is going to adjust to the student as he or she is being tested. Okay, that makes sense. AI is involved in that. It has a set program that says, okay, you answered these questions right. So we're going to start going down this path till you get it wrong. And then we're going to kind of see if we can build you back up to that kind of deal. So that's one style testing. And then you have one where everybody's answering the same exact questions, but the teachers don't know exactly what they're being tested on. We're told we can't even look. Like, we can't do anything with the test. We can't talk about the test. We can't do anything with it. Fine and dandy. Because we are supposed to, because all I can do that day is, no, try your best. Sorry, I can't help you. You need to try your best. And here's the other thing. The state of Texas takes out, they look for comprehension from just reading. And there are a lot of people who don't have that same level of comprehension from just reading. Like, my level of comprehension is not as high reading as it is listening to something. And if you hear that in the background, I guess my daughter's practicing. But that's that's the whole point of, we don't have a lot of clarity. We don't have a lot of set goals that we can point to, because there's no clear definition. You could say the TEKS are a clear definition, but they're actually fairly vague, and have a lot of open interpretation to them. And so the standards aren't there, but we're judged on meeting whatever their criteria is that we don't know what we're trying to meet to 95% of the time. We just have to show growth. And growth can be affected by a lot more than just what the kid actually learns at school. It could have been something that happened. There could be tragedies. There could be all this stuff. But if that's your only thing, is that we got to show them the growth, and you've taken some of the tools for us to show them to grow in the whole No Child Left Behind thing, where it's more on the teacher to show what the teacher did or did not do to get that student to pass, instead of the parent and the student showing what they did or did not do to get their child to pass. We put so much responsibility on the teacher, and needless to say, we as teachers have this innate responsibility that at the core of the profession, I'm supposed to be getting these kids ready for life. But some of them may not have people actually helping at home to get them ready for life. Or these kids' life is not what they expected it to be. And when it's out of my control, but I'm going to get graded on it because, they didn't perform this day, or they didn't step up to the plate, or they didn't get the goal that the state wanted, that's arbitrary as hell. So we need more clarity. And we need more people who actually understand what the profession is, instead of what you remember sitting from the student's seat. Because there's a whole lot more work that goes into it than I think people give teachers credit for. Because here's the thing. All your favorite coaches, and we'll get into this, I didn't mention that I'm going to talk about Lou Holtz. But Lou Holtz was a great teacher as well as a great coach. Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, almost any coach that you come across, Greg Popovich, Phil Jackson, are teachers of that sport. That's what a coach is. I'm teaching you how to play that sport. And if you have a good head coach, they're teaching you how to they're teaching you how to be that next coach. And teachers teach other teachers how to do stuff. I have conversation with people who haven't been in this profession as long as I have. And yes, I said profession because I get paid to professionally teach your kids. I'm not a tutor on the side. I have a certificate that says I have passed a state test, just like a lawyer gets to pass the bar, just like a doctor gets to have their medical license. My teaching license, I have to pass a state test. Now, on that teaching license, I have 5 right now. I have 5 certificates that say I can teach. I can teach all over school. And I'm actually thinking about looking and getting another couple at the high school level so I can jump over to high school. That's my thought process. It is not, oh, well, I don't think I need to do this. No. Part of my job is to learn in doing this job. This past week, I had 2 very similar, but also very different meetings about individual students in my class. And the thing is that I had, or not even in my class, it's on my caseload. One had been full-time in my class, and one had never been in my room except for one time. And with that being said, we had discussions about this child for a long, long time, in that in that we didn't believe we should be somewhere in the setting he was in, and the parents believed he should be in a different setting, or in the setting he was in, because they thought a little bit more, or not more of him, but we had a different viewpoint and perspective of it. And so that was always fun. But even sitting in those meetings where I'm not so egotistical to think that I know everything, but I know a lot of stuff, and I know that there's a lot of stuff I don't know, in that there's a lot of stuff I don't know, in that I don't know everything, even about the job I'm doing right now. And that's fine, because I'm always willing to learn about the job I'm doing. Like I'm open-minded. I actually enjoy dealing with some of the kids that struggle a lot more. But there's clear boundaries in my room. Like there's clarity in my room for these kids that a lot of them do trust. A lot of them will come to me, and even though they may not like it all the time, there is clarity in my room about it. I think if I can hold these kids accountable and have clarity in my room, then I think that people in government should have clarity of what they expect our expectations to be for all of it. Like that's y'all's job. You're gonna make a law, but you're not. You kind of give a lazy definition or such a wordy definition that you leave open to interpretation that we haven't had the clarity of what you actually expect public education to be for probably the time I've been out of it, like the time I have not been a student in it. Because I'm about to come up on this year, will be my 25th high school reunion. Am I gonna go? I don't know. We'll see. Um, I'm not gonna swear either way, but that's kind of gonna be the thing. So those, and I will kind of get clarity to go into my next topics. But as far as clarity for schools, we need clarity in what we actually expect parents to do, what we expect teachers to do, and what we expect admin to do. Because it's great. They passed the cell phone law, but they didn't put any punishment attached to it. They just banned cell phone and left it up to the districts to decide what they want to do, but said that you have to do this. So there wasn't really clarity there. They just said, "Oh, well, people bitching about cell phones, so we're not. So we're just going to take cell phones away." That doesn't make much sense to me. So, so here's another thing. Um, what show I'm going? You know what? Clarity is kind of funny because when you can also talk about clarity, and we'll say clarity in college sports. NIL has been something that doesn't have a lot of clarity to it. The only thing that's clear is that we can pay people. Not so much what all it entails and how it's going to affect everybody, but we have clarity on that we can pay kids, and that's about it. Maybe the structure of it, maybe not. Just that's the clarity that NIL has. While um, while we don't have a lot of clarity in a lot of things, but NIL has the clarity of this is you can pay the kids now. Great, but there's no structured clarity. And I think what also brought that up was listening to a clip of the Pivot where they're talking about the NIL and what happens on renegotiations and stuff like that. And it made sense from a business aspect. But what we also don't have clarity now is in women's sports of what a woman is versus what a man is, just because a man says he wants to be a woman because his ego got busted because he wasn't the world's greatest at his thing. And the fact that that is a conversation that people are up in arms in, and it's a small bunch of people up in arms on both sides. But I am from the ilk of men and women shouldn't be at full level competition against each other unless the sport is fair. And I don't know what sport that would be. That it wouldn't be unfair to a woman physically if a man did something to him. because I don't know many women who are as big as me who are as strong as I am. Because my 380 pounds looks different than it would on a woman. Wow, people don't get that. I think we need to have clarity on all this stuff. Speaking of clarity, something that has come up recently that I actually kind of love, and I love when it's foggy for a minute, and that's going to sound weird. It's more the fact that I love when we talk like WWE stuff and we kind of do that pay per view switch, and now there's some limited clarity. Um, Here's what I think. Just looking at this, it's either going to be just a one on one with Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, or they're somehow going to be in the championship match with Randy and Cody. And I think that the way they're playing with Cody, he's eventually going to change. I think he's going to be the heel at some point in time in this. I don't think you get, but I don't know if you get a baby face who matches Cody right now. I don't know if you can do that. They're getting some, like a Trick Williams, but Trick Williams still got to show it on this level. He's hitting a nerve that is just so fun to watch. Like genuine baby faces, I don't know if they have one like Cody. I think Cody is kind of like his dad, in that he's a baby face that can have heelish intentions. Like he can do some heel stuff, but he's a baby face. Like we all trust him, we all love him, kind of deal. I did love the Tatum Paxley, um, Easy Dane stuff. Vengeance Day, what I saw of it was really good. The JC James, Soul Ruka and stuff, and all that, that was nicely done. I'm liking this whole rivalry. And do you give Soul Ruka the title before Stand and Deliver? I don't know. Or do you keep JC Jane and then everybody just gets mad and then JC Jane's got to defend it some other way that a heel would hate to defend it? Uh, that brings up a grand question. Um, Speaking of other things on WWE, I like what AJ Lee's gonna do, and and you know what? I think it's a good way to do it is to have her own version of an open challenge and give her these matches that she wants. Because I don't think we know how long we're gonna have AJ Lee for. I think they have a set goal in mind, and I think the way that they're telling these stories is really good. But I don't know if I don't know, like, because there's a lot of good matches that can come out of this. I do think I'm gonna like Rhea and Jade at WrestleMania. I think that'll be a fun one to watch. Stephanie, Vaquer, and Liv will be fun to watch. R- Man, Roman and Punk just killing each other on the mic has been fun to watch. Um, Like, it is a hard thing not to love watching them on the mic and just each of them kind of getting that mic drop moment. Oh, that has been so much fun to watch. I still think my tag team. I still think what I think of the tag team titles needs to happen, and that they just need to go down to one. Like seriously, they don't need three tag team titles. I think they need to strengthen that division. I think the strongest part of that division is in NXT, but I don't know if they can get all those tag teams up there without ripping them apart at some point in time. I think Hank and Tank would move up as Hank and Tank. I think OTW would move up as OTW. I don't know about Dark State. You know what? Two, you could probably have a Freebirds type thing, but I don't think their fourth member, I don't think Dion, is it Dion? The one that they're pushing in the world title scene, is going to stay in that group for very long. I think that probably in the next year or so, we'll see Tony D'Angelo probably be called up to the main roster. And he should be. And he should be, really. He should be. He's that change in character, that aggression, that's always kind of been in that character, but getting him away from that gimmicky look has been really good. I do kind of low key like the second generation now that I know who they're related to, because I didn't know who one of them was related to Fit Finley. I kind of low key like that. I really, really do. I think that's a cool storyline to go to be able to delve off of, and that I want to see how that builds over the next like few months. I think I wonder if it helps the one Charlie Dempsey in there, because I think if you put Charles Dempsey in there, he's the I think out of that group, I think him and Lexis King could get the biggest push out of it, and Ariana Grande. I think the other two still need some seasoning, NXT style, before it clicks for them. And it may never, but I think if it's Lexis King versus Charles Dempsey, I think they can make each other. So I think that's where you go with that. Let me touch on basketball real quick. Because I'm watching Spurs basketball. I'm going to watch the game tonight, the one versus the Rockets. But, man, seeing them come back versus the Clippers the other night, that was so fun to watch. Because I was kind of heartbroken because I chose to watch that more than I chose to watch SmackDown at that time. No. Yeah. Yeah. Because I chose to watch that more than I chose to watch SmackDown. Because I wanted to see that game. And just, man, them coming back down from 25 down, that was fun to watch. I love the mentality of the Spurs this year. Probably more so than I have loved their mentality even through that Tim Duncan era. Like, they were more stoic. They had they had some really hype moments, but this being because I think the young Tim Duncans, like Tim Duncan as a youth in the NBA, didn't have, not that he wasn't enthusiastic, but they didn't have that same enthusiasm as a team because they had a whole bunch of vets on those teams. Now, because the NBA has flipped to where it has less vets on the team, uh, this youth and determination, and the fact that you have a De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes and Kelly Olynyk, who have all kind of been in big situations, but you got these guys, you got Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Carter Bryant, Victor Wembanyama, a Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, that core youth want to win and are willing to do it going from defense to offense and just hound you and be aggressive even when they have just had off moments. It's fun as hell to watch. It just is. It is so fun to watch that passion. So I'm gonna be watching the rest of the season. Like I said, I plan on watching the NBC broadcast of them tonight, which is always fun. I try so hard to catch as many of the Spurs games as I can, and it's fun. It genuinely is fun. Um, so, but that is kind of what you expect with a Spurs, that they would be fundamentally sound on defense. I think I saw someone say something about their offense. I don't think they've. I don't think some of the, like, Wimby knows what he needs to do on offense. De'Aaron knows what he needs to do on offense, and then they try and get one or two others involved big. But you have like six others that can have six or seven others, including the Harrison Bars, who can have big monumental nights or can just have great moments and play hard and do what they do best. So that's always a cool thing. Uh, but, and speaking of the word of the day is clarity. The Spurs have clarity in what their goal is and how their goal has changed and how everyone's viewpoint of them has changed for this year. So, hopefully, I know there's some jumbled moments in this podcast, but hopefully there's some clarity by the end of it. Please like, share, follow on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon. Make some comments. I also have TikTok, and TikTok's at Evan Lindsay 50. YouTube's at Shrek Fatty. I think Lemon. Uh, I don't even know what my other ones are, but you can find me on those platforms too. Like, share, follow, comment. Yeah, peace. I'm gonna have a good spring break. If your spring break's not yet, hopefully when you get to it, it is. All right, peace.